I just feel like the way, especially the last 2 years went for me in my career, it's definitely not the way I want things to finish. I still have more to give. End of last year, some qualifying, some races, I felt like I was performing at my best ever.
Good luck. Good luck. That's as fast as she goes.
I haven't felt any degradation in myself yet, so that's why I just want to keep going. And
I've never thought of drivers having deg.
Yeah, but we humans, we have deg, but I don't have yet.
Welcome everybody to this week's F1 Beyond the Grid. I am delighted to say that we have Valtteri Bottas joining us. Valtteri, how are you? Great to have you on the show again.
Thank you, I'm doing good. Nice to continue our traditions with our annual Beyond the Grid podcast.
Now the mullet, I have to say, is looking particularly good at the moment. Has it changed colour?
Thank you, it feels good. It hasn't changed colour since last year. Once it got bleached by the Australian summer, the other year, it stayed like this magically.
Do you know what's quite weird is that the hair is as bleached as it is, and the tash, the moustache is not. So it looks kind of weird.
Kind of weird, but I kind of like it. Sometimes weird is good.
It's very Mansell-esque.
Thank you.
It's very Mansell. Have you thought about a goatee and sort of doing a Damon Hill?
I've thought about it, but I like this current style spec. Yeah, let's say. I did try actually to bleach my mustache last year, but it wasn't a good look. I think it looked even more weird.
Okay. Now, Claire Williams was on the podcast recently, and she said how much she was loving Valtteri 2.0, this version of Valtteri, and how different it was to the Valtteri she knew.
Yeah, I know. I mean. As a youngster when I started in the sport, I think I was actually quite shy, very reserved, almost like just a machine, who drives the car. Didn't really show much emotion, didn't really, allow myself to just be who I am, So I've grown a lot, I think, as a human being in the last 12 years or so.
Has this always been there, or is it life experience that has brought out the colourful version of Valtteri?
I think it's always been there, especially when I've been, if I look back like a long time ago, in a comfortable situation with my friends and stuff.
We just never saw it.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And yes, for sure, life experience, I've definitely opened up a lot. For me, life is much more straightforward now than it was, let's say, even 5 years ago. I'm just, seeing the big picture of life, being able to have fun with certain things and not taking myself too seriously, which I think is very important in life.
Does that make you a better racing driver?
I would say so. I'm very comfortable who I am, how I look, how I drive. But yeah, I'm definitely, speaking of racing, I'm definitely starting to miss that part.
Interestingly, in Spain last weekend, Fernando Alonso was talking about how he left the sport in 2018 and didn't initially plan to come back, but he said, I needed Formula One still. I had to come back. Let's talk about the year out that you're having now. Are you in a similar place with Formula One? You've taken a bit of a step back, and are you realizing how much you want to race again?
I always wanted to race, so I don't know, maybe that's the difference to Fernando. I'm sitting here now without the race seat, not because of my own choice, it's just how things happened. And I definitely still feel, and that emotion was quite quick after I knew I wouldn't get a seat for this year, that I'm not done yet with Formula One. I still have more to give. It's still number one thing in my life. And that sensation, now that I've been watching aside, has got stronger and stronger and stronger. And now I really start to miss racing.
But you didn't consider racing in the World Endurance Championship, for example, or going to IndyCar and just keeping racing this year?
I considered everything, all the options, but I thought for me the best would be to be present, to be part of a Formula One team, a great brand that I've been working with to keep up to date what is happening in F1 2025 in terms of technical things, everything that, because the sport never stops. It always keeps evolving. So I want to understand that, and I also want to be part of a team that allows me to be having some insight to 26 regulations and stuff like that. So, and to be able to do some testing. So that's why I chose to go this path, and I hope that's gonna help me to be on the grid for next year.
We're speaking in Barcelona, and it was here a couple of months ago that you drove the McLaren TPC car. What was that like?
That was fun. That was fun because before that, the last time I drove an F1 car was
Melbourne.
Yeah, correct. Yes,
we ought to explain that. Wasn't it the 1999 BAR?
Yeah,
it was the first Brackley car.
Correct. Yeah, that was cool. I mean, that car is so nimble. It's so much smaller than nowadays, and but the power unit in there wasn't the original spec, so it wasn't the full experience. But yeah.
But other than that, the last time you drove, I suppose, was Abu Dhabi.
Correct, exactly. And I had a run recently at Paul Ricard with the W11 2020 Mercedes car, and there's some days planned for the summer, and I'm counting on that will keep me sharp enough, plus the simulator work. And if I really feel like, if I don't get the opportunity throughout the year, if I feel like I really need to race something, I think I should be able to find one-off events here and there.
Tell us about the 2020 Mercedes that you drove at Paul Ricard. Of course, that was before the ground effect car, or the ground effect regulations came in. How different was it to drive?
Very different, actually, yeah.
And a nice surprise?
Yes, I would say so. The ride is way nicer. The cars, they do have bit more vertical movement. The cars are vertically a bit softer. The curbing is a bit better, and the car was lighter, a bit smaller. I definitely prefer that era of Formula One, so that's why I kind of like the direction Formula One is going for next year, again with a little bit lighter car, a little bit smaller car. So I think it should be more enjoyable for all the drivers next year.
And what about that 2-year-old McLaren that you drove here at Barcelona? I mean, how did that compare to the 2 years ago Alfa Romeo that you had?
Definitely felt the difference. I would say the biggest, I knew that the car was going to be always good in high-speed corners, but the stability it had through example, the last 2 corners in Barcelona was just next level. And really enjoyed driving that car, and also with a great team.
Now, you mentioned 2026. So are Mercedes taking you behind the curtain and letting you see what is being developed for next year? Because there's a risk you might be driving for a rival.
They are not hiding anything. They're not covering things if I'm at the factory, or if I ask questions, they answer them. So there's no hiding. I think Toto has known me a long time. He knows that I want to race, and I think he really respects that. And so I think Toto would like to see me as well on the grid. So I don't think that's why there's no secrets really.
Come on then, let's talk through your options for 2026. Let's start with Mercedes. What has Toto said? George Russell's contract is up at the end of the year. Is there a genuine opportunity to race for Mercedes in 26?
Realistically, I think Mercedes as a team and Toto, I think they're quite content with their pairing at the moment. Kimi is making progress. Yes, he had a couple of difficult races recently, but that's part of the learning curve. I think Kimi is more their long-term investment, George has been doing a great job, very consistent, getting most of the car. So I think that Mercedes is quite content with their pairing, so I wouldn't actually see a reason for change over there, even if I was the team manager, Of course, I would take Valtteri Bottas as a driver, but you know what I'm saying.
This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. Summer's here, and for F1 fans, that might mean outdoor watch parties, travel, and maybe even catching a Grand Prix in person. Whatever your plans look like, staying hydrated should be a priority. And that's where Liquid IV comes in. And lucky for our listeners, they've just dropped a brand new flavour, Arctic Raspberry. It's crispy, refreshing, and perfect for the heat. Visit liquidiv.com and use the code GRID at checkout for 20% off your first order. Liquid IV is the ultimate hydration hack powered by Live Hydroscience. Just one stick in 16 ounces of water hydrates you better than water alone, thanks to its blend of electrolytes, vitamins and nutrients. That's 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink and 8 essential vitamins with no gluten, dairy or soy in just one stick. And they've got tons of flavour. But if you prefer something sugar-free, why not try their white peach, lemon lime or rainbow sherbet options? No matter what your summer brings, tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with the code GRID at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with the code GRID at liquidiv.com. This episode is sponsored by Indeed. You know that feeling when you realise you needed to hire someone yesterday? The pressure's on and you need to move fast? That's where Indeed can help. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen on other sites, just use Indeed's sponsored jobs to stand out and hire fast. Your post will move right to the top for the most relevant candidates, so you connect with the best people for the job from the start. That kind of visibility is so effective. In fact, Indeed data shows that sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed receive 45% more applications than non-sponsored ones. And what I love about Indeed is how streamlined and efficient it makes the whole hiring process. No more lengthy subscriptions or locked-in contracts. You just pay for results. And when I say it's fast, I mean it. In the minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/grid. Just go to Indeed.com/grid right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/grid. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need.
You did mention Kimi Antonelli. Have you been impressed by what you've seen from him?
He's made great progress. Yes, I've been impressed, but also I think the season has gone kind of like I expected. He's been really progressing well on his feedback, on his confidence, the way he races, his speed, but also there has been a couple of mistakes which is completely acceptable and kind of expected. Miami was really impressive. He didn't know the track, only one practice, and puts it on sprint pole. You know, that's a show that he definitely has the speed.
Valtteri, you're seeing the data, so obviously you have a lot more information, but from the outside looking in, Kimi's progress up until Imola looked fairly linear, I thought it was a steady upward trend. Then came Imola, the home race, born in Bologna. He had his schoolmates there on the Thursday, obviously lots of family and friends. It was a difficult weekend for him. What do you think he learnt about how not to repeat that? What do you think he learnt?
First of all, it's part of the learning curve. You learn what works for you, what doesn't. It's quite easy in this sport to get overloaded with things. Sometimes... Okay, every person is different, but for me personally, I never liked to have like too much hassle around, too many people around, because in the end, you're here to do your job, which is to race the car as fast as you can, to work as hard as you can with the team, and minimize any distraction.
So what is your typical entourage at a race then?
I don't really have an entourage,
like, my physio?
Physio, normally a logistics person or /PA. Quite often that's about it. Sometimes my partner Tiffany would join. Sometimes my either mom and dad would join. Sometimes maybe some of my friends, but normally it's either no one or one or two persons. You know, that's it.
And that's the way you went racing. And do you think, if you were to give Kimi any advice after Imola, would it be focus on yourself, reduce the size of the entourage?
It's a tough one. You know, you need to figure out what are the things that gives you energy, and what are the things that gives you confidence and positivity throughout the weekend, and what is considered that you're wasting energy. He's young. He's 18, so he's figuring all that. So I think.
Can you relate to the 18-year-old in yourself? I mean, I think you were doing Formula Renault when you were 18.
That's right. I was in Formula Renault. I would
He's
have
in
never.
Formula One.
I was never imagined at that age to be racing in Formula One. But the sport evolves. He's obviously had a different kind of career path. He started also single seaters very young. So it's a bit of a trend now. But that's why he's still learning, and he's working hard. So I really respect what he's doing.
And does the team dynamic, we'll come back on to 2026 in a minute, sorry, but while we're talking about Mercedes, how different does the team dynamic feel without Lewis, without the enormous presence of Lewis Hamilton? Does it feel like a different racing team now to when you race for the team?
Yes and no. In the end, the spirit is still the same. Toto is still not happy to finish second. The winning mentality is still there. Everyone is working as hard as they can, trying to solve issues, trying to get better. That hasn't changed at all. But otherwise, losing a big figure such as Lewis, I think it has made some kind of difference. It's hard to describe the feeling, but I think also there's been this excitement of young Kimi, rookie driver joining, George having a different role this year, being the lead driver or the more senior driver.
How difficult is it to step up to that lead driver role? Because you did it when you went to Sauber, Alfa Romeo. What extra responsibilities does the driver take on? I
didn't find it difficult, actually. For me, it was quite natural. Once you have a rookie driver next to you, you know that he's going to ask questions. He's going to quite often copy your setup, especially initially in the season. The rookie driver will have much less confidence on the comments and the direction you want to go with the car setup, and that's when the more senior driver has maybe a bit more responsibility in a way to make sure that the changes you are making and pushing for are actually going to the right direction versus wrong direction. But I really enjoyed it, actually. That role, just gives you a bit more, I don't know, something, and especially if you make the right calls, if you are able to lead the team into the right direction, and that brings better success, it's super rewarding.
And be completely open with data?
Yeah, fully. That's important. I think that should be taken in any team if you want to progress the best way.
It's rare these days that you get these walls put up in the garage where one side isn't communicating with another. And I think of MotoGP with Valentino Rossi and was it Sete Gibernau, I can't remember, on the other side of the garage. Didn't talk, didn't share information, but you can't really do that in F1 now because of the amount of data and the engineers will share even if the drivers won't, right?
That's right. I don't think it's not nowadays Formula One. You if you want to make progress as a team, you gotta work together. Well,
Valtteri, the happy team leader, let's go back onto 2026 and see what options are available. I mean, if we just go down in sort of almost grid order, I mean, where there is availability potentially at Red Bull, have you been in conversation with them? Do you think they'd look outside their academy?
I don't know if they look outside their academy. They have so many drivers. They've got obviously kind of their junior team as well. The RB. It's a tough one because it seems like it's not an easy car to drive. Obviously, Max is doing the job. He's really pushing almost beyond the limits of the car, and whoever has been alongside him hasn't looked great. But I don't know. I just wonder if that car, to be driven fast, needs a driver with an experience. So I don't know. That's my speculation, but I think they know that I'm keen to race. They know that I would be available for next year, but I don't know their mindset on that. So
did you talk to Red Bull about 2025?
25, not really. It was put down quite quickly because I think there's certain persons or a person within the Red Bull organization that for some reason is not a big fan of mine, but that's life.
You talk about the narrow performance window of the Red Bull. Obviously Max Verstappen is very good at doing that. You are a man who's had 20 pole positions. Clearly you can drive that fine line as well. Can you just explain to us what people mean when they talk about a narrow performance window with the tyres, and how difficult it is to keep the car in that.
You know, especially now, the gaps between teams and drivers, they're so small. So if you're a few tenths off, sometimes it means you're last, you know. With the tires, as always, it's been very sensitive in terms of the temperature. You know, when it comes to qualifying, the outlaps, having them in the sweet spot can make that difference of, you know, 5 places on the grid, and then you look either really good or really bad. And if you have a car that is, let's say, a bit pointy, not that easy to position where you want to, then you add all the other factors like the tire temps, the wind. Then I really just think then it helps if you have the experience. If you've driven different kind of cars with different kind of issues, you develop the skill to drive around problems. And I believe that's been always one of my strength, that I can adapt quickly and I can kind of figure out how to drive around the issues.
Okay, so you're adaptable, you're experienced. Just tell everyone how competitive you are. How much do you still want to win? How much do you want to add to those 10 Grand Prix victories?
Of course, you always want to add more. You know, I don't have a number in mind, but I just feel like the way, especially the last 2 years went for me in my career, it's definitely not the way I want things to finish. You know, I still have more to give. You know, end of last year, some qualifying, some races, I felt like I was performing at my best ever, you know, so I haven't felt any degradation in myself yet, so that's why I just want to keep going. And
I've never thought of drivers having deg.
Yeah, but we humans, we have deg, but I don't have yet. So
what about outside of racing though? Are you a very competitive beast? Last time Fernando Alonso was on this podcast, he was saying that if he and I played paddle together, if I beat him, he'd never want to play with me again, or not until he'd got better and was confident he could beat me. Are you like that?
I am, but with I can select things that I want to be competitive at, and if I don't want to compete, then I'm fine with that. So I'm also adaptable on that. But yes, naturally I'm competitive.
So put you on 2 wheels.
Yeah.
Very competitive.
Yeah, if you speak about cycling, you know, I do some events normally on gravel bikes, and I go all in. I can hurt myself a lot. So I enjoy that feeling of giving everything you have.
It's a real masochistic sport, cycling, isn't it? It's quite
is.
lonely, and you are inflicting pain on yourself.
It is. It's a weird sport, but I found a great balance in life with that. For me, it's compared to Formula 1, there's so many things that are the opposite, you know. In Formula 1, there's lots of people, there's lots of noise, lots of stress. If you get out on your bike, it's vice versa. There's no people, there's no noise, there's no stress. So it's nice and balancing factor.
You get it through cycling. I think I get that through running.
Yeah.
While we're talking bikes, tell everyone how you got on in the gravel World Championships in Belgium last year. It was an epic thing to do. To qualify was epic, actually. What age group you were? Was 30s?
Yeah, so my goal was just to qualify for it. That was my goal. So when I see and try if I could qualify for the World Championships with obviously limited training, because F1 is the main thing. We travel a lot, etc.
Hang on. Limited training? I saw you pounding around racetracks most nights.
Yeah.
How much more training do you need?
If you want to be a pro cyclist, a lot. But so it was great experience just to be part of it. I felt proud. I felt very happy to be there, and I gave it all I had. I finished somewhere in the midfield, and I was in the age group 30 to 35, and I'm now 35. So I was happy about that, just to be there and to experience that.
And are you fitter now that you've got a bit more time being a reserve driver?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a bit more time to train, and actually I feel like I need to train more this year because I'm driving less, so I need to do a bit more gym, but yeah, still riding a lot, and that keeps me fit and keeps me mentally fresh.
What is the difference between being a pro cyclist and a pro racing driver? Because you live with Tiffany Cromwell, pro cyclist. Are there parallels?
Well, cyclists, they can eat more because they consume, they burn more energy throughout the day. You know, a pro cyclist spends many hours a day on the bike, A Formula One driver every day can't do it because you got to be fresh for the race weekends. Also, you still need to have some muscle to drive Formula One, so you need to. And cyclists, they would consider that as dead weight. You know, it doesn't help you getting up the hill faster. So
I need to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was cycling on the Monday, or was it the Tuesday after Monaco? You were climbing with Tiff, and you were quite a long way ahead of her. So you would be heavier than your other half, but you're clearly a very good climber.
I wouldn't consider myself a climber, but maybe I was on a training program. Maybe I had to do an effort or something. But she's still pretty rapid on up the hill. I'm still better because of some dead weight on more undulating course, let's say.
Okay, so they can eat more. Just in terms of attitude, the psychology of cycling, pro cycling versus Formula One, can you help each other just day to day?
Absolutely. You know, it's in any sport, well, in life in general, but especially in sport, you always go through ups and downs. Sometimes you're more confident, sometimes you might lose your confidence a bit. It's a consistent learning curve, you know, and having a partner that is in professional sports, I think you can read each other pretty well. You know when to say something, when not to say something, you know, and be there as a support. So we can definitely relate a lot, because I think all the top sports, if you gotta be 100% committed to it, there's so many similarities.
And was Tiff really buzzing? Because she won a race in Australia, didn't she?
Yeah,
while we were in
national
Imola.
title, yeah.
And she came straight to Monaco to tell you about it, by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I mean, she's had a great season. Obviously, it was about 1.5 months ago she broke her collarbone, first time in her career, and recovered quickly. And first race back, she won it, which was, for me, those kind of stories
inspiring.
Very inspiring, yes.
Yeah. We've digressed again. Let's bring it back to 26. We've discussed Mercedes. We've discussed Red Bull. Another potential opening for Valtteri Bottas might be at Alpine. Have you spoken to them? Would it appeal to race for Alpine next year? Mercedes engine?
I think probably there has been some discussions. I haven't really been involved, but I do have a management team that were always at the background seeing what is out there. They do have a Mercedes power unit for the future, which I think is a good call. I don't know, they're on their second driver this year, and I think the next races will show how that goes. Again, I think on a struggle street, let's say, experience can always help. But again, there's lots of politics in this sport, you know. I don't have tens of millions to pay for a seat, example.
Do you have any sponsorship that you can take to a team?
Depends of the team, but I do have some personal partners that, you know, could potentially join me, but still, not on an extent to some others. But let's wait and see a few races, see how things go. You never know if something opens up.
Did you talk to Alpine about this season, about 2025?
Yes, yeah. Spoke earlier on last year to quite a few teams, because I was naturally going to the end of my contract, but never really jumped into 100% again, because I was always convinced I'm going to be part of the Audi project, which obviously didn't happen. When
did you actually find out that wasn't on the cards? How late in the day?
Too late. That was the issue after Brazil. So I think some people knew before me. So that really compromised everything, and that's obviously when I knew that now it's too late to sort out anything else. So bit unlucky there.
When you look in the mirror, you see this old school cowboy.
From the director of Top Gun Maverick.
Why did Sonny Hayes come back to F1?
Starring Brad Pitt.
Ever seen a miracle?
Pedal down.
Not yet. On June 27th.
How do you think I'd feel if you die on the track?
3 laps. 3 laps is a lifetime.
This episode is sponsored by Vanta. When you're running a business, trust isn't just earned, it's demanded. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit or a seasoned security professional scaling your GRC program, proving your commitment to security has never been more critical or more complex. And that's where Vanta comes in. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance for in-demand frameworks like SOC 2, ISO 27001, and the latest European frameworks like the EU AI Act and DORA. And with automation and AI throughout the platform, you can proactively manage vendor risk and complete security questionnaires up to 5 times faster, getting valuable time back. Vanta not only saves you time, it can also save you money. A new IDC white paper found that Vanta customers achieve $535,000 per year in benefits, and the platform pays for itself in just 3 months. Join over 10,000 global companies like Flow Health, Synthesia and Alica Bank who use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. And for a limited time, listeners get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/grid. That's vanta.com/grid for $1,000 off.
Let's bring it on to Cadillac now. New team coming in for next year. I've heard your name being linked to them a lot. How is progress? When are you expecting them to make a decision?
I don't think they are in a massive rush. They've been very, very busy on trying to get a car on the grid for Melbourne next year, or for the first test early next year. Timeline-wise, I know my timeline when I want to know about next year and what plans do I need to make, which I think August more or less is pretty good target for that. But hopefully we'll hear something more soon. Again, I think they have few drivers on the list. I would imagine my experience will help, because now I've raced in 3 different teams. With one of the teams had mega success, with Williams as well, had some great results, etc. So yeah, I hope I'm in a good position. And for me, I actually see it very interesting project. Something new to Formula One, an American team with a maybe different view to the sport. And for me to, let's say, if I would be there as a driver, would be actually very interesting, because you can start from scratch. The team starts from zero, and you could actually make a big influence on certain things, which direction to go, and that would be very motivating and rewarding when the success comes.
Do you think now is a good time for a new team to come into F1 with the rule change?
I think rule change is always good point to jump in, because you just never know. If you suddenly get it right, you actually might be doing really well from the get-go.
Let's throw it 10 years forward now. Will you still be racing something? Are you one of these people who just has to have a steering wheel in your hand?
Yes, I think I'll be racing something. Absolutely. I've raced since I was 6 years old. This is my first year since that. I haven't been racing until this date at least, and I miss it, like I said. So I don't see any reason why not.
From a safety point of view, would you go to Indy? Do the ovals concern you?
Ovals, I've never tried them, but I've got no concerns. I think that is one. Let's say if it's not Formula One next year for me, I definitely need to figure out what is the plan B. And one option definitely is IndyCar. And if that would be the case, I would want to commit to many years, because I know it's not going to be easy. It's different category, different cars, different tracks. So, but yeah, let's not talk about it too much yet. Let's try and stay within F1.
F1, I get. Yeah. F1 is where you want to be.
Yes.
Does endurance racing appeal to you?
Why not? I think Le Mans is a very exciting race. There's many exciting endurance races. At the moment, everything is wide open, and I'm very, very open to anything. And also, like, sometimes it's good to see where the wind takes you,
See, that's Valtteri 2.0 saying that.
Yeah.
Where the wind takes you. I don't think the Valtteri of 10 years ago would have had that.
No, I would have wanted to know what I'm doing in 5 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, let's go with the flow. And I feel like sometimes things happen for a reason. So maybe actually being here now, talking to you, maybe there's a reason. I don't know.
Now, something else I wanted to talk to you about was your general fitness. Okay, we've touched on cycling, but if you haven't seen what I'm about to ask him on YouTube, do look it up. The indoor Ironman. Now, there's a reason for me to ask this. Is my son is doing the Frankfurt Ironman at the end of June. He hasn't done it yet, but, but hopefully he'll make it to the end. Look, how tough is the challenge of an Ironman? Any advice you can give my son Paddy?
Well, first of all, to the listeners, the AC has been off here for 30 minutes and we're like in a Finnish sauna. So we're sweating here together.
We both are.
Yeah.
We just need the ice lake to jump in.
Exactly. It's tough, but it's, of course, physically very tough, but it's more a mental challenge, because when your body is empty, when things start to hurt, then it's just your mind that will keep you going. If you're strong mentally, anyone can do it, you know. But it's gonna hurt.
VB,
it's gonna hurt.
How much prep did you do?
No
because
prep.
You made out on social media that you woke up one morning and thought, what shall I do today? I know. Was that really the case?
So the real case was no prep. I decided the night before.
Who thinks like that?
Valtteri 2.0 apparently. I don't know. You know, that's, yeah.
Had you always wanted to do one?
Kind of, yes, but kind of, I haven't even done a marathon before that. You know, that was probably first on my bucket list, because within an Ironman, you finish it with a marathon. I don't know, the whole thing was just
but you had done 180 Ks on a bike,
yeah,
I take it,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So that was the easiest leg for you?
Probably, yeah. Swim was also good. I used to swim in the past quite a bit, so I still have the technique. The bike was okay, although, you know, I didn't have the proper cycling shorts / the chamois, so no padding. And the saddle was a saddle that I never tried before. It was just a stationary bike, you know. So
a bit sore then.
Bit sore there. That was all right. Then the run.
Back to the swimming quickly.
Yeah.
How many lengths of that pool?
More than 200. More than, I think 202 or 203 lengths of that quite a small pool.
Gets quite repetitive.
Gets quite repetitive, yeah.
Okay, but you were fine after the swim?
Yep.
Okay after the bike?
Yeah, I was just on the bike, I was overheating. Managed to, at some point, to get the fan to help a bit, but, you know, because in stationary bike, you don't really have the airflow. So, and I didn't have any electrolytes or any sports nutrition. I mean, water.
You said that at the time. Was that how can you embark on that without any of that?
I had water, I had some Coca-Cola. I had some rice at some point.
All of your professional life is so mapped out.
Yeah.
In terms of your food intake, what you do. That's what I find so extraordinary about.
Yeah, I was happy with no prep because it wasn't the race. I was just challenging myself. I just wanted to complete it. Yeah, I think that's why, example, I didn't go like race pace, you know, I just did it like zone 2. Just wanted to complete it, make sure I get to the end.
And how fast did you do the marathon?
I need to check from Strava. It wasn't very fast, but it was 4 hours something.
Right. And the whole thing took
it was more like, but you know, that's important factor. I was on this curved treadmill that is meant for strength training without any power. So I'm pushing the treadmill instead of the treadmill moving, you know. Apparently that's like 20% harder than normal.
I don't doubt you.
yeah, you can try. Anyone
You're
can try.
You're my hero, Valtteri.
Or should I say, don't try this at home.
It was an extraordinary thing. And where did we race next?
Next, there was this gap between Brazil and was it Vegas.
Okay, only 1 weekend off. What sort of shape?
No.
What sort of shape were you in?
There was 2 weekends off.
Okay.
Yeah.
What sort of shape were you in when we?
I was good. I did the week after Brazil, and I had basically 2 weeks to recover. I was fine. I felt good in the car.
Extraordinary. Do you ever want to do a proper outdoor Ironman?
Yes, outside would be nice. Would be nice to see some trees, maybe some other people. That would make the time go faster. But yes, I enjoyed that experience in terms of how much actually you learn how mental it is and what the mental strength how powerful it is. So I want to experience that again.
And did it help your racing somehow?
I think so. I just now I know that there's so much in reserve. Like some races you feel the fatigue, if you feel the heat, bit of dehydration, you know that you can keep going if you decide to.
It's been great chatting. Just before you go, I did want to ask you about your business interests, because there's a lot going on in the world of Valtteri Bottas these days. Very quickly, are you still involved in coffee?
Yep.
Still love coffee?
Yep, still love
How
coffee.
many espressos a day?
Not too many. It's good to have things in moderation, but probably about 5.
Moderation.
Yeah.
Perfect. The gin?
Yep, still going. It's mine and Tiffany's company, Oath Gin.
Now, I remember you telling me that you sold 33,000 bottles of the gin in year 1 in Europe alone.
Well, I think we produced that many bottles in year 1. Yeah.
Has it increased
We have
significantly over the last couple of years?
Not significantly, but we are increasing step by step. Still, to this date, we haven't spent any money on marketing. It's been all organic. We're a small team, just me and Tiff and 2 business partners. It's really all about sharing passion. We have been able to get to different countries over the years, but it's still work in progress. And again, one thing for the future that we can do together.
Have you enjoyed the process?
I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. I've learned how difficult alcohol laws are in different countries. Example.
There's also the wine.
Yeah.
There's a theme here.
Yeah. Probably makes me look like an alcoholic, but it's passion. Again, in moderation. I think I would recommend everything that I do.
Okay. Well, look, VB, thank you so much for your time. It's been brilliant to have you back on the show. I've got everything crossed for August, if that's D-Day for finding out what next year holds.
Yeah, I definitely want to know by then where I'm going to race and what.
And we can say for definite that Valtteri Bottas will be racing something next year, hopefully in Formula 1. If not Formula 1, in
something else,
a high championship somewhere.
This is guaranteed.
Okay. Final one, and it's a question I'm asking all of my guests on the pod this year. Formula 1 is 75 years old this year. Do you have a favourite moment or a favourite memory in all of those 75 years?
So that obviously anything even outside my career.
Yeah.
My favorite memory is watching on a TV at home when Mika Häkkinen won his first race in the Spanish Grand Prix, last race of the season, I believe.
Jerez
97. That was because he was my hero, and then he got his first win. I was so happy. So that's still very, very clear in my memory.
Why was Mika such a hero?
He was obviously Finnish. I was Finnish, but his big accident in '95. To overcome from coma, being very close to death, and still having that drive to get back and to have your peak in your career after that. That was really inspiring.
Yeah, inspiring man. Valtteri, as are you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.